Good Easter late night. Welcome back into From Day One. Art Bell and Jeremy Meador is back with us about Nevada's Roswell incident. And we're just picking up right from the commercial break.
This is the area of 51. Evening, everybody. Jeremy Meador is my guest. Now, what you're hearing about is very interesting because it really sounds, for all the world to me, just like a Roswell, only here in Nevada and little known. But obviously, there is some serious amount of evidence to go along with this. And by the way, on that note, it's my understanding Jeremy is emailing a couple of segments of photographs to my webmaster, Keith Rowland, and we'll get them up for you. That may identify the location. Jeremy, you're back on the air again.
Yeah, I'm sending you the pictures. I got 2 or 3 separate emails because they won't let me send them all at once for some reason.
That's fine. That's fine. The emails, or the photographs, I should say, are going to be of this material, number one, right?
Yes.
And number two, of you standing at this, well, you called it a indentation in the ground, a crash site, actually, right?
Yes, they're actually of the, they call it a crater. It looks like a crater, like a hole in the side of the mountain.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And
so
the pictures also are, there's some of them are of a, I guess you could call it a base of some sort, a government base that was put in, that was made around the crash site. I'll get into that in a minute.
A base made around it? Okay, go ahead.
Well, it gets weirder. In 1955, 55 I think it was, 3 years later, the government actually built a, you could call it, they built a prototype range. What it was supposedly was to track and monitor the X-15 rocket plane, which is a plane that could take off like a conventional airplane and land on a runway like a normal airplane could. Well, once the X-15 spy plane, they stopped doing that. They started using these bases to monitor UFOs and UFO tracking activities, supposedly. Because I guess from workers that worked there in the 70s, they were saying that the government, what they saw in the military, was if a UFO had crashed here in the past, maybe they would come back in the future, was their way of thinking at the time.
Isn't that interesting?
Well, I know I talked to Harry Drew and the Kingman UFO crash. He said that there was radar tracking towers built there. That was, I believe, a couple years after this.
Do you have any idea why they would have it set in their minds that if a UFO had crashed once, it would there'd be another?
Well, I guess past they thought that if one UFO had been there, there had been another, or there would be another. They were thinking this because, I guess in the past, I don't know if it was Roswell or something, they were getting heavy UFO activity in the area where another UFO had crashed in the past. I think they were saying it came from, I think Kecksburg was what the guy was saying. But these radar towers, they built them on 3 mountains overlooking Ely. Squaw Peak, ironically, is where the main station was put, where they were seeing those aliens on the mountain, and it's overlooking the crash site of the southern crash site. So, I don't know if that's just a coincidence. I kind of think not, but...
Okay.
Anyway,
you've said that you have had run-ins with Men in Black while you were doing research on this crash.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, please elaborate. What has happened? I love first-person stuff, so if something happened to you, I want to know about it.
Oh, yeah, well, we had gone up to one of these sites, the one on Squaw Peak. You can go there now, but I guess it's not recommended that you go up there because they probably don't like that. And they have the sign that says you could be shot for going up there and things like that. But I'll show you a picture of that sign too. So when you get the emails, you'll see that. Well, so we went up on this mountain, and it says in a 1978 newspaper article on microfilm that they had demolished the base, but they had kept a couple of trailers up there on top of Squaw Peak. Well, if you go up there nowadays, there are a couple trailers up there. There's a couple trailers. There used to be a big, giant radar dish, I guess, I don't exactly know how big it was. They're supposed to be one of the biggest ones in the state at the time. Well, they had this big radar dish on top of there. You could see the sand that's still there. I actually sent you pictures of the base on top of the mountain, too.
Okay.
Well, it says 2 of the emails went through, so you should have 2 of those right now.
Okay. It'll take a few minutes for Keith to get them up there. But anyway, go ahead. You're going to tell us about Men in Black.
Yeah, well, so anyway, so we went up to this base on top of this mountain, and there are a couple of trailers still up there with modern day radar dishes on top of them. They're not huge things, but they're still there. And you could hear the hum of electronics coming from the trailers, like they still use it for something. I don't know what, but these were supposedly the trailers that these men were working in to track UFOs, the same exact one. You could tell the trailers are from the 1950s or 60s, judging by the style of the trailers. So I have some of those pictures of the trailers in the email.
Okay.
So anyways, I guess somebody didn't like us going up there to that radar tower up on top of that mountain. Because, let me start, we've had run-ins with the government or Men in Black at least, I'd say, 3 different times. The first time, I'm going to get to the best one for last. The first time was when I first found out about the Hill Air Force Base being involved with the cleanup and the spotting of the UFO. I actually, this wasn't a very smart thing to do, but I called the Hill Air Force Base and left them emails, and finally somebody called me. And he was a base historian. He actually called our, I used to have a landline. They called our whole landline, and I never gave him that number. So anyway, so he called our phone, and at the time, I'd like to mention, by the way, I'm in my mid-20s. At the time, I was only like, I don't know, like 20 or 21, whatever. So anyways, a man from Hill Air Force Base had called the house, and he was asking me questions about UFOs and things like that, besides common knowledge.
Just out of the blue?
Yeah, out of the blue. The Hill Air Force Base called me, and the guy was asking me about Roswell and weird, I guess, testing my knowledge on UFOs to see how well I was into it. He asked for I went to CSN, the College of Southern Nevada at the time. He asked me for all of my teachers' names for some reason and my student number. I don't know why. But anyway, so then after...
Wait a minute. Hold on, Jeremy. He represented himself to be who? From where?
I have my notes right here, actually. He said that he was some sort of a historian. He never gave me his name. He said he was the base historian at Hill Air Force Base. He told me that in the 1940s and 1950s, there were a supply and maintenance depot for Nellis Air Force Base and the other ones in the area. But the Project Blue Book, again, tongue-tied, they clearly said in Project Blue Book in black and white that Hill Air Force Base picked up the pieces of the UFO and that they were sent out, basically. Because it said that they had planes circling the area and things like that. Well, anyway, so this guy calls me, he's asked me questions. For some reason, he's asked me questions about my college and things I was doing in college. I don't know, trying to not make it sound weird to me at the time or not. But so, anyways, he starts to ask me, okay, well, what specifically do you want to know about? And I actually got, I guess, call it nerves of steel. And I asked him, okay, well, I'm doing a case involving a crash. He goes, what kind of crash? And I go, a strange one. And you could tell the guy, you could tell he was smiling on the other side of the line. He kind of chuckled, and he was like, well, kind of strange crashes. And I said, one that happened near Ely, Nevada in 1952. And the guy goes, those types of crashes are classified. But if you want to know about it, you can come down to the base, and we will talk to you about it. And knowing I didn't go down to the base. I didn't want to know what was going to happen if I went down to the base, whether they were going to do something or not. Well,
no, I understand completely. I probably would not have gone either. And then
they called my phone a couple more times, asking me more questions about airplane crashes and kind of more UFO questions.
Really?
And they never told me why they were asking me this. I kind of just answered their questions because Nellis Air Force Base is right down the road, and I'd rather them not come to the house in person and ask me.
Right. So you would classify these people as Men in Black on the phone?
That was the military. The Men in Black story, the more interesting ones I'm getting towards now.
All right.
Well, the last time we went to Ely, which was back in May, me and my best friend this was one of the first times we went to the crash site. We had got these rocks, and we were out cruising around. Well, we were actually filming videos that we were going to put on a short documentary we're planning on making. And on my best friend's camera, you could see that there's the blacked out vans are in the background with the people sitting. They didn't get out of the vans, but they showed up at several of our filming locations. And this area is very remote. So like Ely is the biggest town for 200 miles in any direction. So what are the chances they would follow us to small towns? And I'd like to tell you, most of these towns are like an hour or two apart. So pretty long distance for these people to be showing up. That was concerning, but that's not the weirdest one. I guess it was back around 2011. Me and my best friend and my brother were actually going to get ready to take one of our trips to Ely. And we were going to interview a lady that lived in Ely. I guess she had seen something like the craft being transported through town or something. So anyways, the woman called me on a Thursday or a Friday, and we were supposed to leave on a Saturday. And the woman said, oh, well, I'd like to thank Jeremy and Nick, which is me, my best friend. I'd like to thank you guys for coming and doing an interview today. Your paranormal route is very professional, and she starts describing this interview. And I told her, I was like, oh, well, that's interesting and all, but we didn't go up there. We're still in Las Vegas. And she swore up and down that me and my best friend came to her house. Well, she described it as two men in black suits got out of a blacked out van, and they knew all about like where I went to college, my friend Nick's wife in Ohio before I moved to Las Vegas, and I guess we're having small talk about our lives, and their facts were right on. I don't know who these people are, but she described them as your typical Men in Black impression, or like what you would think of the Men in Black. And I guess they conducted some sort of interview, and the lady got so scared when I said that it wasn't us that she never talked to us again. So I have no idea what that was, but I guess nobody else that we wanted to interview has had people like that show up. But we have talked to people that have been seeing the Men in Black come to their house and threaten them within the last few years, too.
Threaten?
Yes. There was a man named Claude House. He's actually on that video that you have on your website.
Right.
He was talking to the Channel 8 News in Reno. I think that video was from 07 or 06. He was telling his story about what he has seen or what he thinks he remembered. Well, I was told by a couple of the locals to go call him because I guess him and his brother, he was young at the time, but they had seen something. I called Mr. House, and he told me, oh, I'll be glad to do an interview with you. And I said, okay, it's a paranormal interview is what I described it as. And he was like, okay, let's do the interview. So I called him on the phone to try to get like a pre-screening before I actually drove up to where he lived. And this man, he was like, okay, well, what do you want to ask me? And I told him, okay, well, we're going to be doing a story on UFOs and this and that. And all of a sudden I told him, okay, well, tell me about the Ely UFO crash and what you know. This man, he did a 360. He went from calm to hysterics. This man started blubbering and crying. Like I call it crying. It's not like he was crying. He got very concerned. He told me, word for word, he said, they told me not to talk about it. They told me that I'm in danger if I tell you this. And he kept saying, they, I don't know who they is. And he said they came through his house and they are monitoring him in his phone calls, I guess. And he was pretty scared.
That sounds like MIB. All right, so you said you're now in your mid-20s, right?
Yeah.
When did you begin investigating this? How long have you been at it?
Since about 07 or 08, so that's...
Long time.
Since I was about 18, 19?
Yeah, that's a long time. So you've been at this a long time, and you've gained the trust of the people there.
Yeah. I've talked to several people that had that seen that 1970s thing I was telling you about, and several of those people said that in the 1970s that the Men in Black were in town knocking on people's doors. Like, I guess they call them MPs. Some people have started as military police. Some people call them Men in Black. But I guess he said if they had their handguns on their side, that's clearly what one of the women said. That they had handguns on their side and they're going door to door in that town of Root.
Were they in uniform?
Yeah.
Probably MPs. Sounds like.
And I guess he said they were asking for information. I don't know if you want me to tell you the story of the 1970 thing or if you want me to finish up on 1952 first.
Well, let's finish with what we've got.
All right, well, so the Men in Black were still interested in it, or the military is still interested, because back, I guess, as soon as the last 5 or 6 years, they were talking to some of the people that went to the media or were online talking about it. I talked to Ed Pierce, the guy that made that video, the news anchor. He said he hasn't seen anything weird or had anybody come up to him, so I don't know if it's just certain people or whatnot. But somebody was impersonating me and my best friend, I don't know who, and they were calling the military base, Hill Air Force Base, was calling me and asking me questions. I don't know what that had to do with anything, but weird.
All right. Pat, message here that says the kid, let it be you, is backing into the most interesting material. It's getting better. At first I thought he was just reading Wikipedia. Now it's like, oh, and I've got a physical sample of some unknown material. Wow.
Yeah.
So what have you done with this material? Have you had it tested?
I haven't brought it to a laboratory because they want a lot of money. They want $1,000, I was told, by some of the geologists that work for, it's called the Robinson mine, which is that big copper mine I was telling you about. I guess they employ 500 employees in the area, and a lot of them are geologists. We talked to 3 geologists from the mine. They gave the same kind of testing they do on the rocks at the mine. They were scratching it with knives, looking at the color, holding up different types of tarps and things. They said that it's the closest thing that it's related to a hematite, but I guess they said that it's not exactly like hematite, but that's what it's similar to. That's one rock sample. The other one that I don't have in my possession was shown twice. Well, this sample, it was yellow, almost like a bumblebee color, like when you picture a bumblebee, like yellow. It was light yellow color, but it was hollow in the center. It felt like it was hollow or like a honeycomb type of texture. And if you tapped it on a desk, you could feel that it wasn't strictly hollow. Well, the townspeople, the 2 people that showed us the samples wouldn't tell us where they got this from. But we also talked to those geologists and showed them pictures of the sample. I also sent you pictures of it too, but nobody could tell us exactly what that is. We talked to a man that worked at the smelters in the town of McGill, which is near the next town up from Ely going north. And he said that he dealt with sulfur for years and years working at the smelters, and he said that he didn't think that it was sulfur. So I don't know what that sample is. But I was...
Well, generally, Jeremy, I've found that if you have a sample of something that is really anomalous, I can guarantee you that somebody will come along, a Linda Moulton Howe or somebody at that level who is interested in real science, and if they find that it's anomalous, they will get it to the right labs, I can promise you.
I know, I think they wanted like $3,000 or something like that to look at a similar sample from the Kingman UFO crash. I know he said he paid for that out of pocket. So after hearing that, I didn't even think
listen, make no mistake, Jeremy, it's going to cost money to get it tested. What I'm saying, though, is if what you have is really anomalous, trust me, the people who count will find a way to get the money to get it done. No problem.
Yeah.
Are you willing to allow the sample to be tested?
Yeah, I'm willing to get it tested. I just don't know if I want to give away the whole sample. I'll give like half of it or something.
That'd be fine.
I want at least a piece of it to keep to myself.
That'd be fine. I'd received similar material, Jeremy, and I did exactly that. I kind of pieced it out for testing. And you'll hear a future show we'll do with Linda Moulton Howe that will give you some of the results from that testing. At any rate, let me assure you, as we go into a break, that it can be tested. That the right people will come along and test it for you.
Ain't got no trouble in my life. No foolish tricks to make me cry.
Good evening. My guest is Jeremy Meter from Las Vegas, and he has been investigating a alleged crash in Ely, Nevada, back in 1952, July 7th of 1952. Now, thus far, we're talking about witnesses who have seen what? Aliens with pincers. There were possibly as many as 16 bodies. He has had a Men in Black sort of experience on the phone, I would say, more than in person. He has interviewed people who actually saw other people, and some of this is pretty important eyewitness stuff, actually crawling on a UFO. It destroyed some train tracks, turned them into virtual pretzels, he said. It's coming out in sort of starts and stops and spurts, the story, that is. But when you consider the totality of the story, and you consider that there's actual physical evidence to be examined, as well as a crash site, it adds up to quite a story. Now, it is coming out sort of in somewhat disjointed pieces, and some of that may be my fault for asking early questions, or questions that should be asked later early. However you want to look at it, I don't know. Jeremy, welcome back. Now, the totality of your story is significant, and it seems to me that it's so significant that MUFON or some other very large organization should move in based on just what you've found and the witnesses you've talked to and conduct a real downtown investigation. What do you think?
I actually contacted MUFON, and they weren't interested. I already sent them 4 or 5 emails talking about my material, and
really?
They haven't showed any interest.
Did they say why?
I don't really know. I don't know if they don't believe me or what. I know I talked to Stanton Friedman, and I talk to him all the time about it. He finds it really interesting, I guess. I don't know. I don't recall what the Nevada chapter's leader, what his name is, but I sent him a couple emails. There's like a secondary email on their website. I wrote them, and they never really replied back. So I don't know. It seems like they're not very interested, or I don't know exactly what's going on.
Has anybody, in a real investigation, for example, Jeremy, you would bring an artist or some sort of artist to a witness, and you would say, look, what did this creature look like? And you would attempt to do an artist drawing. You would do, the normal stuff that investigators do. Has there been any representation to you like that? Anybody who's drawn what they saw?
Nobody's drawn anything.
Nobody.
Every time I usually ask if I could have them draw a sketch or if I could have them talk on camera, most of the time, I don't have any sketches, by the way, but most of the time they're afraid that somebody's going to contact them, or I don't know, most of the time they don't want to have their story out to the public a lot of times.
Okay. Yeah, I do understand that. People are very reluctant to talk about this kind of thing, and for probably pretty good reason. But, it just begs to have more investigation. I guess you've been doggedly pursuing it, right?
Oh, yeah. I pretty much eat, sleep, and breathe beauty for the most part.
Right.
Yes. What else was I going to say? I found the story to be really interesting. I'm kind of surprised that nobody else has really found anything like nearly what I found. I don't know exactly why, unless very many people haven't tried to find it, or if they just looked for that one specific time frame in August, or what the deal is.
You said in August?
Well, they said it was August on the internet, but it happened in July. It was the 1952 incident. So I don't know if they were all looking in August, and that's why they kind of gave up if it wasn't in August, or what the deal was.
Well, 1952 is a long time ago in one way, and not very long in another way. As I mentioned, if people have seen creatures, people have been climbing on a UFO, these are things that would be passed down through generations. And there'd be a story. Let me just sit on my knee here, and I'm going to tell you about the time I climbed on a UFO. That kind of thing. So those stories really are going to be around. Now, you've heard some of them, but holy mackerel, this is a pretty big deal. And Jeremy, did the military, when they did come in, did they cordon off the area? What did they do? You told me about the train. What about the craft itself and so forth?
Well, I know they picked up the craft with a giant crane, and they hauled out the craft. He said that, I guess they weren't allowed to go back to work on the railroad for, I don't know how long. He didn't really say. They weren't allowed to go back to work for a while. Mm-hmm. So I guess they stopped the train going through. Claude House when we asked him about UFOs. In his story that he actually told Ed Pierce of the Reno News, he said that the actual freeway was cordoned off. So from judging by that, I never heard anybody else say that the freeway was cordoned off. I don't see why it wouldn't be, but I guess apparently they kept the people out of the area at least on the railroad. And for judging by Claude's story, apparently they closed down the highway too.
Okay.
Because he said that many people say that they were told that a small plane had crashed in the area. Is what they were telling everybody.
That'd be the usual story, sure.
So I don't exactly know how long they kept that story up, but like I said, it wasn't reported in the newspapers, so I don't exactly know how they were getting that message out at the same time.
Okay. Have you pretty much stuck with the Ely crash, or have you been involved in ufology otherwise?
Well, funny story, really. There's a place called Mount Potosi. It's right outside Las Vegas. It's in between Pahrump and Las Vegas. I guess it's called Potosi.
I can walk out of my studio and look at Potosi if the sun was up.
Oh, well. Mount Potosi has, I guess there's a lot of UFO stories coming from Mount Potosi. I actually had a weird experience. What got me involved in ufology was when I was about 11 years old, I was in Scouts. And we went on this night hike in Mount Potosi because there's a Boy Scout camp up there. It's closed to the public. But we were on this night hike in the woods, and we went around this corner, and on the straightaway, I guess off to our left, ironically, like off to our left, there was some kind of an object that was sitting on the ground. It looked like the end of a boat, like a point, but it's coming off of an egg-shaped craft. It was sitting on three stilt-looking legs.
Right.
And me, my mom, and three other scouts and their moms actually walked past this craft. I didn't think nothing of it at the time until the next morning when we came back and the thing was gone. You could see three indentations in the ground where this thing was sitting. I firmly believe that it was a UFO. I mean, you could argue that it wasn't, but I think that it was personally, and that's what got me interested in ufology.
All right. Well, anyway, with regard to the crash in Ely, coming back to that for a second, we've covered where it happened, when it happened. Of course, I guess we can't know what became of the creatures. We can't know what became of the craft itself.
Well, I can tell you a little bit about what happened to the creatures.
All right. Please do.
All right. Well, searching through the archives and the old newspapers, we came across on July 10th, I think it was the Oregon newspaper or the Elko, Nevada newspaper, one of the two. It says that this is a casual article, mind you, out of the middle of nowhere. They say, oh, well, the aliens that were brought to the Ely police station were shape chimps. No need to worry. It was about like a one paragraph long message. It didn't have any pictures. It didn't say anything else. All what it said was, the aliens that were brought to the police station were chimps. No need to worry. So apparently the military or the police or somebody rounded up some of those living aliens I was telling you about and brought them down to the police station. But I thought that was weird because it was dated July 10th, which is 3 days after the actual crash happened.
Now, is there any record at all of an alien being rounded up, as you put it, and brought in? You would think definitely that would be something the police would note. An alien walks in, got to make a report here. I think we just got cut off. I'm sorry to hear that. That was Jeremy Meter, and obviously we've lost him. So it's a lesson in telephonics, folks. When we book our guests, we try and make absolutely certain that they're on a landline phone for a whole lot of good reasons. One of them was just demonstrated by that clip you heard. That was his phone going away. So I don't know what to make of all of this. How about you? Obviously, we've got a youngster here telling us a story that he's collected from a whole bunch of eyewitnesses, right? And he's got a little bit of physical evidence of some sort. He's got some photographs, which, by the way, Keith Rowland still does not have, and I think we might have Jeremy back on the line. Jeremy, are you there?
Yeah, I'm on.
See, this is why we don't like cell phones, Jeremy.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm putting the pictures up on a private website. I could send you the link to also if you want.
Now, wait a moment. Wait a moment. I thought you were sending them to webmaster@artbell.com.
I did send it. It says that they went through at... 1 second, it's loading.
Because I checked with Keith in our last break, and he had not yet received anything.
Is there any way you could have Keith email me first and I reply to him and send it that way?
Well, it's not too complicated, Jeremy. It's webmaster at
It says
artbell.
At 8:41 and 8:25, it says that they were sent through.
They were sent through. So you didn't get a bounce.
I didn't get a bounce, but just in case I upload them to a website, I could send you the links to it and you could do it that way. I don't know if that would be easier.
Well, at this point, it's not easy at all. Where did you send are these photographs on the web now?
Yeah, right now. I'm putting them up right now.
You're putting them up now.
I'm publishing it right now.
And where are they going to be, Jeremy?
It's EliUFOcrash.webs.com.
Ely UFO Crash.
Yep. And then a period, and then WEBS.com.
You got it. That's Ely UFO. Hold on a second, Jeremy. Ely UFO Crash. Period.
Yeah.
WEBS.com.
Yeah.
Okay. That means we'll get them eventually.
And it says that it was published right like a couple seconds ago, so it should be on there right now.
All right. Jeremy, is there anything else about this story, from the Men in Black encounter to the actual material evidence you have to the eyewitness reports that you have not told me about yet? Anything really important that we need to get on the air?
I'm thinking real quick. Well, I talked to the Meteorology Society in Nevada for that day, and they said that there was clear skies, and it wasn't a meteor, because some people say that the blue gas behind it could have been a meteor. Well, they said that this couldn't have been a meteor because it was doing twists and turns, and it was being sighted for a while. And I guess the one to the north, like I said, started a forest fire, and the sorry, it's been tongue-tied here. The society was saying that when meteors crash to the ground, they're cold to the touch, like you could pick them up. These still started fires.
Okay, well, they're not, of course, going to be cold to the touch after they've traversed the atmosphere. They're going to be very, very hot, right?
Yeah, they were saying that I don't know if you help, the descriptions of it they were similar to a meteor, but not exact. Well, something I would like to say was the crash in the 1970s, or the UFO landing, is separate from the 1950s incident. And the video that was on your website that the news station did, that's actually a combination of both kind of put into one. Their facts are kind of mixed up on there. Okay.
All right, so they didn't quite get it right.
Yeah. Well, something else I'd like to mention is civilian and Project Blue Book both say that there was B-36 bombers flying low over the crash site, like right after they happened, I guess. The one to the north sooner than the one to the south, but I guess there were these B-36s flying around, circling the area. That's something else that I found was pretty interesting.
All right. Is there anything further to be seen up there? If somebody goes into the Ely area now and finds the site that you talked about, are there still things to be picked up and to be seen?
If you go to the site that's near McGill and Cherry Creek, there are rocks similar to the one that I was given out there. I didn't want to take all of them, but there are similar rocks out there. I don't know.
Okay, we're having trouble with our connection now. You still there? No. We've lost Jeremy again. So, sorry for that, Jeremy. I think we're going to call it at this point, and we're going to go to unscreened open lines. So go ahead and back there in Washington, open up the lines, and we'll give out the number, and we'll just go to unscreened open lines. Now, obviously, we just had a youngster on the air. and a very enthusiastic youngster on the air. He's been looking at this for some time. I think probably he's on to something. I don't know what. I do know that the physical evidence should be examined. There should be people who would go and speak to the witnesses and get some sort of description of what the creatures looked like. There would need to be a very great deal of follow-up to all of this for us to get it right. So I'm going to open up the lines right now, and we're just going to take some open line calls, and you can talk about anything you want to talk about. If you want to comment on what Jeremy said, you're welcome to do it. Now, I will specify right at the top here that Jeremy didn't quite have it together in the sense that he kind of, jumped around a little bit in the story, which made it difficult to understand on top of the bad line, but there's something here. Obviously, there's something here. So, if you'd like to call us, if you'd like to get on the air, remember, if you want to wish me well, wish me back, it's Roswell's, please. The number is 855-REAL-UFO. That's 855-732-5836. And with that in mind, let's do it. Unscreened open lines. Dark Matter, you're on the air.
Hello, my name is Teresa Freiliger.
Hi, Teresa. Turn your radio off, please.
Yes, I just did.
Okay, excellent.
And am I speaking with Mr. Art Bell?
You are.
Oh, okay. I just sent you a message via the wormhole, and explaining, trying to tell you about an episode that happened in the late 50s. There were three of us, Mary Jane Robinson, her mother Dorothy Robinson, and myself, in rural Pennsylvania, Shippensburg. And we went shopping at a mall. Mary was getting ready to go to nursing school, and she was buying a few things. And the stores closed at 10, and we were coming back to Shippensburg, and Mary hated driving on the Interstate 81, so we always took the rural back roads. And it was a perfectly clear night, a million stars visible, and some moonlight, and it was just, a lovely drive. And out of nowhere, there were these lights that came up behind us, and Mary thought somebody wanted to pass, and she put her arm up out and, and said, pass, pass, and she slowed down, and they didn't pass. And but they were close, and it was annoying her, so she stopped the car, and she said, I want to find out what's going on. And her mother said, Mary, don't get out of this car. Don't just stop. Let them go. Ignore them. And she said, no. She said, maybe something's wrong. Ever the caregiver, the nurse, Mary. Mm. So, and I was in the back seat.
Sounds just like a scene out of Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
No, it wasn't. No, I don't think it was. But at any rate, I got out of the car as well, and I'm like, I guess Mary was 18, and I was 14. So I got out of the car also, and so I was on the passenger side of the car. Mary was on the driver's side of the car, and she walked to the rear of the car, and I was already pretty much there. And there was this object, and there was no lights at this time. When we stopped and got out of the car, the lights were gone. And you couldn't even see where there had been headlights or anything. It was perfectly smooth. And I'll tell you what triggered this. The other night, last night, when you had the guy on who said that the object that he saw that was black was like a, what did he describe it as? Shoot. But at any rate, it wasn't square, it wasn't oblong or like a hot dog or anything like that, but it sort of had a rise in the center from the top as though it rose. The bottom appeared to be flat, and the sides were curved but very smooth.
So you're saying it was a craft?
It was a craft. Yes, it was a craft.
Some sort. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, but there was not a sound at all, Mr. Bell. Not an engine, not a hum, not a nothing. Absolutely.
All right. So there, the two of you are standing there looking at this craft, and
right.
You should have been scared out of your minds at that point.
Well, no, because we didn't feel threatened. I mean, I actually touched it.
Really?
And yeah, I mean, I was so fascinated with it because I didn't know what it was made of, and in later years I came to realize or think that it was like titanium. It was perfectly black, and the moonlight made it look shiny. But it was
Okay, well,
so
wait, we don't have a lot of time here. So what happened? Did it take off? Did you take off, or what?
No, we did not take off. And Mary's saying, hello, did you want to talk to us? I'm not afraid. And I said, no, I'm not afraid either. Would you like to, I said, would you like to speak to us? Would you like to ask us questions? We'd like to ask you questions. Don't be afraid. We're not afraid. Look, we're kids, you know.
I don't think I could have done that. Honestly, I don't.
Well, we did not do. Now, Mary's mother is in the front seat, crying hysterically. Get in the car! Get in the car! I don't like this. I'm frightened. And Mary says, "Mom, shut up." And
all right, listen, we're about out of time here. But what did the craft take off, or did you just drive away?
This is the thing that was amazing. It just lifted straight up without making a sound, and it then elevated as if to go up, but while it was with us, just right in front of us, it wasn't, we weren't a foot from it. I mean, I could put my arm out and touch it. And, it just lifted straight up and then sort of took off. And as it took off, lights around it started circling and different colors, and we could see people inside, and we waved goodbye.
People.
Well,
people as in creatures.
Yeah.
Not. Wait a minute. Wait. Human or non-human?
They were too far away, but they appeared to be somewhat human. They had heads, necks, shoulders, arms, and the one thing that Mary said was they don't have 5 fingers. And see, I wasn't looking at the fingers, and we were waving to them, saying goodbye, goodbye, and they waved back to us. The thing that's interesting is ever since that episode, I've been intuitive. I'm an intuitive.
Well, it obviously then affected you in some manner and may have set that off. I don't know. That's fascinating. There you have a first-hand account of what I would call close encounter of the third kind. Right? When you're that close, and you can put your hand on a craft, and when you can wave to the whatever they are is in there, I would say that's a close encounter of the third kind or whatever. Wow. Dark Matter, you're on the air. Hello.
Is this Art?
It is.
Art, my name's Mike. I'm in Virginia.
Hi.
I work the water on the Chesapeake Bay, and we constantly see strange objects flying in the sky. I've tried to videotape them, and none of them have ever appeared on my videotape.
Well, unless you've got a really new camera and it's really good with low light, you're not going to get very much. It's really hard to take any video, meaningful video at night, and then end up with anything more than a light.
I don't even end up with light. That's the whole thing.
Really?
Nothing appears on the film or on the video at all.
And you've done this how many times?
Oh, 5, 6, 7 times in the last year.
Wow.
It just, we see all kinds of strange stuff out here at night, working the water. And we've tried to videotape it, and we can never get it to show up on the tape.
Well, I'll say this, and I've had 2 experiences, both I think I've described to you at various times. And in both cases, I did not have a camera with me. In both cases, I was so shocked and so transfixed, where I was, that I never would have thought of it. Never. It would be great to say, I had a camera right there on the backseat. Could have grabbed it, could have taken a picture, could have had the proof, wished I'd had the proof, but didn't. So, I do understand. Dark Matter, you're on the air.
Art, is it you?
It is me, yes.
Oh, it's great to hear you back on the air.
Thank you.
So, no, I'm just I'm just curious, like, how do you, and talking in general, like, how do you not dispute everything going on here?
I don't know what you mean. How do I not dispute what's going on? What do you mean?
Oh no, sorry. Like, it's between pyramids and all this other stuff. It's this ancient alien thing. Doesn't that make complete sense?
Only if you put it in context. What are you saying? I think he knew what he wanted to say. He just couldn't figure out how to say it. Dark matter, you're on the air. Hi.
I don't know what you mean. How do I not dispute?
Yes.
Roswell. One thing about all these different crafts, and there's a lot of different descriptions, but if these aliens can come across hundreds of thousands of light years, couldn't they have the technology to navigate through our atmosphere? Why do they always crash it?
It's a very good question, and I guess the answer might be the only ones we get to talk about and see are the ones that have a problem. You know, if they don't have a problem, then they're up and gone.
Well, I guess I've got to have a problem every now and then. Now, maybe that craft that came back to look at the crash site was looking for survivors. Maybe it was a rescue mission.
Entirely possible, sure.
Hey, very, very good shows. I really enjoyed last week. Yes, the professor was incredible there, so keep up the good work, Art. Thanks you.
All right, thank you very much, and take care. Of course, we had a couple of professors on, so I would assume that you're perhaps talking about Dr. Paku. Dark Matter, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello. Is this a screener?
No, I don't have a screener.
I'm sorry, Art. Hey, I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
Are you going to have a show here recently about rods?
You're talking about Jose Escamilla, right?
Exactly. The rods that, you see out the corner of your eye.
Okay, rods are not so much seen in the corner of your eye. Rods are actually able to be photographed.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. Actually, what I'm thinking about was the
shadow people. Yes, they come to the corner of your eye. Rods.
Yeah, rods are the white streaks that you can.
Yeah, they're moving very quickly.
Exactly.
What is your point of view about that, sir? Do you think that rods are the real McCoy, or do you think they're? A lot of people say, for example, they're bugs.
No, Art, I've seen them 1,000 times. I've had rods and shadow people, but the rods, I see them all the time. They're white streaks in front of my eyes. I actually see them. I don't know.
I think most people do not see rods, that they're too quick for the eye. We all see a little thing that I think floats across our eye every now and then, if that's what you're talking about.
That may be an eye floater, yes.
Could be. All right, thank you very much. But what he was really talking about, that's a whole other subject, rods. Jose Escamilla is a very interesting guy, and he's put together, I think, absolute proof that these rods really do exist, that they are some sort of life form, and they can be photographed. With very high-speed film, and he's got lots and lots of photographs, even video of rods. There's a particularly impressive one, which occurred in a cave, and these rods were flying all about this cave. It's really amazing. Anyway, listen, we're going to break here. We're in open lines now, and anything you want to talk about is fair game. I'm Art Bell, and this is Dark Matter. You certainly are doing that. They're all lit up. Welcome back, everybody. My guest was Jeremy Meter. He talked about a UFO crash in Alien, Nevada, just north of me. Well, quite a bit north of me, but still here in Nevada. And I'd like to know a lot more about it. So if anybody has anything to contribute to the Jeremy Meter story, I'd love to get it so we can track this down. If it really is a Nevada UFO, if it really is a Nevada Roswell, I guess would be the way to put it, I definitely want to know more about it. So hopefully you'll get the information to me. By the way, did you hear about the bombs that were dropped on North Carolina? These weren't any bombs. These were hydrogen bombs. Now, this occurred a long time ago, 1961, but we were just told about it. New document tells us. The B-52 apparently disintegrated in midair, and the hydrogen bombs dropped. They landed on North Carolina, not out in the ocean, but actually on North Carolina. Now, fortunately for us, there are 4 safety features on hydrogen bombs. 4. 3 of them, you will be unhappy to hear, failed. That's right. 3 of them failed. Only one tiny thing stood between, well, what happened, harmlessly falling to the ground, and hydrogen bombs, a couple of hundred times more powerful than those that hit Hiroshima from going off. Do you know what that thing was? A little tiny safety switch. Think just a few volts. If the low voltage switch had gone, and that means just a few volts drop or a few volts added, either way, the hydrogen bomb would have gone off, and North Carolina would have basically disappeared, along with Maryland, Washington, South Carolina, probably Georgia. In other words, a very great deal of our East Coast would have gone up. You hesitate to say in smoke, but up in smoke. And that would have been it. And we're just now told about it. Back in 1961. Can you imagine that? Okay, let's go here and say, Dark Matter, you're on the air. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
How are you? Good show tonight.
Thank you.
I used to, when I was a kid, I was pretty skeptical about this kind of stuff. You know, UFOs, ain't no such thing. One summer night, when I was 18, right out of high school, my old friend and I, we were, doing what, teenagers do, getting into mischief.
Sure.
And we seen this big blue thing. One second, it's a dark sky. Next second, here's this big blue thing just sitting in front of us. I'd stay there for less than a minute, and all of a sudden, it was just gone.
When you say right in front of you, you mean really close or what?
Then actually, it was, like not right in front of us, but it had a little bit of distance, but it just sat there, man. There was no sound, no nothing, just this big blue ball. And then all of a sudden, it was just gone. Well, after that, I've been a believer ever since.
Well, there's nothing like having your own experience. And according to surveys, most Americans, I believe, have had their own experience. The majority of Americans have seen or been in close contact with something that they can't explain.
Yep. And we checked the papers and the news the next day. There was nothing reported. So my buddy and I, we decided, well, maybe we'll just sit on it and keep it to ourselves and not tell nobody about it.
Probably a wise decision. Thank you very much. Another thing that I would like to complain about or make note of, and that is that, with social media now, everybody's on Facebook, right? Everybody's twitching about Twitter, all of these different, or on the computer. And when you're on the computer, when you're on Facebook, when you're doing the social media thing, you're not looking up. And that's one of the main reasons that people don't see UFOs. Take our sky here in Nevada. Very clear. On any given night, you can see a wave from one horizon all the way to the other horizon. That clear. Millions of stars. And if you sit outside and spend a little less time on Facebook or your computer or whatever you're doing and actually look up, you're going to see something. Now, it may not be as dramatic as some of what you've heard about here, but you're going to see something. You'll just have to wait for a while. It may turn out to be a satellite. It may turn out to be an airplane. It may turn out to be something strange. And you may see a UFO. But one thing's for sure. If you're on Facebook, you're not going to see it. Dark matter, you're on the air. Hello. Hello? Going once. Going twice. Gone. Dark matter, you're on the air. Hello.
Yes, am I on the air?
You are.
Oh, wow. Art Bell, right?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. I never expect I would be on the air ever, actually.
Okay. Well, here you are.
All right. Awesome. Well, my name's Tony from Dallas, Texas.
Right.
And so pretty much I just wanted to just give you pretty much calling about a paranormal experience I had last year at a cemetery in McKinney, Texas. It's in north of Dallas.
Okay, this is, you said, a paranormal experience, right?
That's correct.
And you're at a cemetery.
That's correct. Yeah, so basically me and my girlfriend and a couple of other friends too, we went out to the cemetery called Ross Cemetery in McKinney, Texas. So the crazy thing about it is, usually I am a skeptic, but at the same time I can be a believer at the same time, but only if truth is right to present in front of me, something that's undisputable. And definitely tell you tonight that I actually have definitive proof of an EVP that actually that one of my friends actually captured, and I wasn't really too far.
Wait, stop. Hold on. You have definitive proof of an ET that you captured?
Of a EVP.
Oh.
Of a voice.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So you were in a graveyard and you had a recorder with you.
That's right. Well, my friend had it recorded. It was actually from his cell phone, but you can actually hear it very well. Actually, I have uploaded it on the website I want to say sometime last week, because I've always been very scared. Honestly, that's the way I felt. I've always been kind of very scared, kind of shied away to see if I putting out paranormal evidence out to my friends.
Okay, what you're talking about is, you're talking about an electronic voice phenomenon. Okay. Do you have it with you right now?
Yes, I do. I can actually email you the link, whatever email I can send it to, or...
All right, I was going to say, just play it. Let me hear it.
Okay. All right, yeah, sure. Let me just grab it real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Give me
we're going to do it. Yeah, I'm waiting. I'll wait. We will do a show on EVP, electronic voice phenomena. And this man went to a graveyard, and apparently somebody had a recorder going on a phone and captured what you're about to hear.
Right, here it is. Right here. Let me just go ahead and skip over to the last minute, because it's a 3-minute and 39-second EVP, but let me go and skip over to the last minute of it, because you can definitely hear it. Look for something that says something, whispering, come out and play. Here it is.
All right.
And 3, 2, 1, here it is.
All I hear is hiss.
Did you hear that, Art?
No.
Let me try it one more time for you.
Okay. All I heard was hiss.
Let's see.
Oh, I did hear it.
Again.
Yeah.
And it said it twice.
It's a little hard to hear, but I heard it.
Yeah, and then in that last night, my friend saying you bored me. The crazy thing is that the cemetery is extremely old, very, very extremely old. I want to say we found graves going back to the 1700s, late 1700s on that. It's always scared me hearing this voice. It always gives me chills. I've always been somewhat of a skeptic, but at the same time a believer. I guess you could say you could catch me in the middle, depending on if evidence is there, and I'm glad I actually found this evidence.
I'm glad you did too, and I'm glad you played it for us. Probably would have been better out, of course, directly coming over, but I could hear it. EVP has a long, rich history. I have some friends that we're going to have on the show. They have some family difficulty right now, but they're going to come on the show, and they've been playing EVP for years for me. And all it requires is a recorder. I guess you can use your phone. It doesn't matter if it's digital or if it's tape. And what you do is take it with you to, if you have the cojones for it, into a graveyard or a haunted place, and you let it run. And if you're lucky, I mean, that's what you want, and you're lucky, you will hear a voice telling you something. Now, I don't know where this comes from. What I do know is that it goes all the way back to Alexander Graham Bell. He was investigating this. He had voices that appeared on his recording mechanisms. And frankly, they're very, very scary sometimes. So, if you want to play around with this kind of thing, it's better than a Ouija board and more fun to play with. You just start a recording going in a place that you think might be haunted. See what you get.
And with that, we will leave Art Bell for this Easter Sunday night. Come back on Monday for the conclusion. With that, we will also bring this day to a close. Please like, share, and subscribe. Get us to that 50,000 views, 1,000 subscriber thresholds. So, as I always say, Boxy and Nexters with YouTube will, pay attention, start sending us stuff. Till next time, like, share, and subscribe, be kind to one another, and release the Kraken as we march along here from day one. Have a great night. Hope your Easter was awesome, and we'll see you on Monday.